Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I process dark and dramatic wildlife photography in Lightroom. The Lightroom presets I use in this video are available to purchase from my website, but during the video I'll share a discount code for you to get 50% off, so stay tuned for that. In this video I'll be processing two separate images, showing you my entire workflow from start to finish. This workflow centers around a dark vignette around the main focus of the image. So to start with, I always start with a radial gradient. I invert that radial gradient because I want to darken the area around the line there. So already that's created a more dramatic appearance. I'll just turn that vignette on and off so you can see. And then the next step will be to go into the basic panel and I'll start adjusting the sliders. I'm basically looking to start with a dark, soft, contrasted image. So I will drop the exposure. I'll add a little bit of contrast just to darken this image up a bit more. I'm going to soften the shadows by increasing the shadows and the blacks to 100%. You can see that softened out the entire image. And now I'm going to bring in some of that contrast with this white slider here. Somewhere around about there. Next, I'll add a little bit of clarity just to bring out some more of the texture on the animal, give it a little bit of a grungy appearance. And then I won't touch the vibrance and saturation at the moment. I'm going to adjust the colors of the image first, and then later on I'll look at the saturation of the entire image. The next thing I'm going to do is come into the tone curve. And now I want to give it a faded look. A faded look is basically taking the blacks and making them appear a little bit more gray and not jet black. It gives it a nice soft appearance. So what I've done is I've created some presets here, the black fade presets. So I'm going to use one of those presets on this image, and I think I will use maybe this one. I like what that tone curve has done, but to me these colors are too vivid, they're too yellow. I'm going to come into the HSL panel here. I want to drop the hue of this orange yellow color. I want to make it more red. So I'm going to go into the hue under the HSL panel, and I'm going to drop the orange and the yellow sliders here. Just making those oranges and yellows a little bit more red. So I like the way that looks. I'm going to turn off this here just so you can see the oranges or the yellows are more red now. The next thing I'm going to do is go into color grading. I want to add a nice blue tint to the shadows. So to do that, I've got two presets here, blue shadows, and I'm probably going to use number 2. So you can see turning this color grading on and off, those shadows really stand out nicely with that blue tint there. So once I've gone through the tone curve, the HSL, and the color grading panels, I will go into the masking option here. I want to subtly change certain parts of the image. I want to darken some parts and lighten some parts to bring out more of a mood. So on this image, the area on the cheek is a little bit bright. So I'm going to grab a radial gradient. I'm just going to drag and move it over that area. Just want to drop some of those highlights and that exposure. Maybe a little bit of saturation. A little bit better there. I'll turn that on and off so you can see the effect. And then one thing I like to do is work on the eyes. Now, I don't want to brighten the eyes and make it look a little bit unrealistic. What I like to do is actually go into the eyes. We just zoom into 200% here. And you can see on a wildlife image, the sky is reflected quite bright on an animal's eyes there. I want to increase that brightness just in that area. And that's going to add a nice clarity to the eyes and really make it stand out. So to do that, I'm just going to take a brush. I'm going to paint over that area. Let me just increase the flow there. And on this side as well. So the area painted in red is going to be affected. Now I'm going to come down to the whites and watch those eyes carefully. I'm going to increase the whites there. And maybe a little bit of highlights. Not overdoing it, but just adding some crispness to that area, and that's really going to help those eyes become a little bit more piercing to the viewer. So that's off and that's on there, and I think this image is very close to being finished. What I may do is just go back into the basic panel and just adjust these sliders a little bit more here, just to fine-tune the image, but I'm pretty happy with that. So this is the before, that's what we started out with. And this is the after. So you can see it's very flat, it's got a lot of mood, And what I might do is just add more of a vignette, just to bring out more of that mood there. So I think that does it for this image. Let me go into the next one and I will show you how to deal with an image that has a lot of green inside. Alright, this image is a little bit more trickier. It's got a lot of green. It's quite bright. It's got some sunlight falling on the face. I want a nice dark, artistic and dramatic effect to this image. So to start, I'll add a radial gradient. I want to darken the area outside of the focus of the image. Now the focus obviously here is the face. And what I like to sometimes do is drop the exposure down all the way. This allows me to see what I'm darkening. And I can adjust the feather and get it quite precise there. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to subtly darken the area outside of the lion. And then I'm going to go into the basic panel and we'll start adjusting some colors here. I'm going to warm up the image. Let's adjust the tint. And then obviously this image is very bright. So now I'm going to darken the image, remove some of that contrast and start working on the colors. Drop this exposure quite a bit. And then I want to raise up the shadows and the blacks as well to remove the contrast in the shadows there. I think I'm going to drop these highlights. I want to soften the area on the face there with that sunlight. And then I'll start adding a little bit of contrast back into the image. We'll add a bit of clarity just to add a little bit of texture onto the animal. And then I will come back to the vibrance and saturation a little bit later to work on the overall color of the image. Next thing I'll do is come into the tone curve. I want to add that black fading effect. And because this image has a lot of highlights, I'm going to use this black and highlight fade preset here. I'll then come into the HSL panel here, and this is where I'm going to do quite a bit of work. So on the hue, I'm going to drop some colors here. I think the reds are okay. I'm going to drop the orange hue, and I'm going to drop the yellow quite substantially. I want that green color to start fading away in the background. So we've changed the hue of those three colors there, but with saturation, we're going to make the biggest difference. We're going to drop a lot of that color away. So I'm just going to start dropping these sliders. So the majority of that background is yellow, so I think I'm going to drop that quite a bit, and the green as well. And then probably some of the aqua around about there. So now we've gotten rid of a lot of the color, but now with the color grading, we're going to bring it back. So now in the color grading tab, I'm going to manually adjust these sliders. With the blues, I'm going to go quite extreme here. And then I'm going to add in some mid-tone color. And then because these shadows are taking up a large part of this image, I'm going to adjust this balance to bring in more of the mid-tones into those shadow areas. So something around about there. So you can see with that color grading, we've added some nice blue there. We've increased the orange a little bit in the mid-tones. Now the image is looking a little bit flat. It needs a lot more color. So I'm going to go into the vibrance and saturation. Okay, so now this is a before and after. I've gotten rid of some of those colors. I like the mood, but now I need to bring out more dimension in the image. That's where the masking features come in handy. So I'll go into the masking here. This is the first mask we created. Now there's a couple of problems with this image. The bottom here is too bright. So I'm going to create a linear gradient. I'm going to drag it from the bottom to the top. And I'm simply just going to drop the exposure there, just to try and make it less of a feature in the image. I might drop the contrast. Maybe drop these highlights a little bit there. Okay, it's looking good. I'm going to darken the top of the image slightly. Add a little bit more of a vignette. Very slightly. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a brush. And I'm going to add in some brightness onto the mane there. Just to bring in more of that detail. Let's increase this float to 100% to make the effect easier to see. So now on the image, I'm going to affect the eyes. I can bring out a little bit more of that clarity in the eyes there. I'm going to click on brush. I'm going to paint over that bright section of the eye there. And on this one. And I'm going to increase the whites to bring in some of that nice clarity there. What you can also do is on the outside of the eyes here, there's this little white part of the eye that's showing. You can actually paint on there, which helps bring out a little bit more of that crisp detail. I might desaturate it because there's a little bit of purple in that eye there. Desaturate. That's looking good. And what I might do now is brighten, especially this eye here. It's a little bit dark. Don't want to overdo it though. So I'm going to brush the entire eye there. And I'll brush onto this one too. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to add some exposure. Something like that. You don't want to overdo it and it looks ridiculous. Just keep it looking natural. Something like that. So you can see this is the before, very bright and green. And this is the after, very dark and moody, and it has a totally different mood. The presets I use in this video are available from our website. It's the Dark and Dramatic preset pack, and if you want to get them for only $5, use this coupon code for your 50% discount. If you're interested in learning more about color grading inside of Lightroom, check out this video next. But until next time, cheers.